Okay, zero fluff today, guys. We are launching straight into this explainer to expose a tiny mistake that is costing students massive marks. You know, in Cambridge Biology 9700, the difference between a top band grade and an average one. It's really not just about how much you've managed to memorize. It is entirely about how you deploy that knowledge.
Think about an answer like, the nucleus controls the cell. It feels like a totally correct biological statement, right? Well, to a Cambridge examiner, this is completely flawed. If you rely on generic statements like that, you are losing marks before you even finish the sentence. We're leaving the top band version of this blank for now, but by the end of this explainer, you are going to know exactly how to fill it in to secure full marks.
And getting this right is absolutely crucial. Why? 15%. That is approximately how much of your total paper 2 mark this specific 1.2 Nucleus, nuclear envelope, and Nucleolus topic commands. That is a massive chunk of your grade riding on a single subtopic. You literally cannot afford to give generic low-level answers when 15% of your success is sitting right here.
All right, let's dive into Section 1, Core Principles, and look at exactly why we need to go way beyond basic definitions.
Look, just reading your textbook over and over, it's simply not going to cut it for this syllabus. The theoretical architecture of the nucleus and nuclear envelope rests on incredibly precise definitions, causal relationships, and integration with totally different syllabus areas. The syllabus heavily emphasizes that top-performing students exhibit a connected, conceptual understanding, one that transfers easily to completely unfamiliar contexts. Principal examiner reports actually highlight year after year that candidates who reference cross-topic connections achieve significantly higher marks. It's like a giant puzzle. You have to build a web of knowledge, not just a static list of facts.
Cambridge examiners are targeting 3 distinct cognitive domains here. They aren't just testing your ability to regurgitate what the Nucleolus does. No, they are aggressively testing your handling and evaluating of information, along with your experimental skills. These are higher-order assessment objectives. They demand that you evaluate alternatives, compare different approaches, and form really well-justified conclusions. Which brings us to a massive sticking point. Seriously, ask yourself, why do students find evaluating evidence and drawing conclusions so incredibly hard? Because navigating this specific hurdle is exactly what separates the average grades from the absolute top bands. It requires you to totally shift gears, moving from a basic descriptive level up to a sharp analytical and evaluative level.
Now stick with me here, because missing this next clue literally means leaving guaranteed marks on the table. We have to look at the exact step-by-step procedure examiners expect you to follow when you evaluate that evidence. Let's move right along to Section 2, Technical Methodology, and break down the method mark strategy.
This is absolutely a game changer, because marks are actually awarded for the process itself. This is the deconstruct, solve, evaluate framework that you must use for problem solving in this module. It's a clean 5-step system. First, you identify the given information. Then, break it down into logical steps. Next, solve it systematically. Fourth, check for reasonableness. Does your answer actually make sense? And finally, make justified recommendations. If you diligently follow this process, even if your final calculation is just a tiny bit off, the examiner can still award you method marks for the sheer logic of your approach. Because if there's one thing examiners love more than correct answers, it's a perfectly documented logical procedure.
And this framework dictates exactly which specific statistical tests you need to deploy for your data interpretation. In biology, data is everything. You've got your t-test for comparing means, your chi-squared test for categorical data, and correlation tests for spotting relationships between variables. Knowing exactly when to deploy these specific tests, that is non-negotiable for higher-order exam questions.
But hey, it doesn't stop at just knowing the names of the tests, right? You must seamlessly apply these critical data interpretation skills. You've got to extract precise numbers from tables and graphs, interpret the underlying biological relationships, calculate those relevant statistics we just talked about, and ultimately, and this is key, draw conclusions that are actually backed by hard evidence, not just assumptions.
What's truly fascinating is the difference in how students handle comparative analysis. Lower band answers generally identify similarities only, but a true top-band comparative analysis requires evaluating both similarities and differences. You absolutely must use comparative connectives and support every single point with evidence straight from the data to draw conclusions about relative importance. That, right there, is how you successfully handle and evaluate information.
Moving into Section 3, Examiner Warnings. This is where we unlock the actual principal examiner reports.
Okay, grab your mental highlighters because this reveals the exact mistakes examiners see over and over again on this topic. Here are the top 3 mistakes extracted straight from the source. Number 1, answers are way too vague. Examiners want hyper-specific biological details. Number 2, forgetting to check units and terminology. If you ignore units or give vague descriptions instead of proper scientific terminology, your mark drops instantly. And number 3, which is honestly the most fatal, answers are not specific to the context given. Listen, this is a massive examiner alert. Generic answers are your absolute worst enemy. Context is everything in Cambridge biology. You can have the most beautifully memorized definition of the nuclear envelope in the world, but if you don't actually link it to the specific experimental scenario or the exact cell type presented in the question, you are simply not getting the marks.
So how do we fix this? Always follow this 4-step answer framework to build an ironclad response. Step 1, state the biological concept. Step 2, introduce the evidence or data from the question. Step 3, apply scientific reasoning to connect the two. And Step 4, ensure you are using exact examiner wording and terminology.
Bringing it all back to that cold open, we can finally replace that flawed, vague answer. Instead of writing something like, the nucleus controls the cell, a context-specific, top-band response using our framework will apply the specific concept, like, say, how the nuclear envelope's pores regulate mRNA transport. It will intimately connect that to the specific scenario provided, use robust scientific reasoning for why that transport dictates protein synthesis, and perfectly match the examiner's exact terminology. That is exactly how you turn a 0-mark generic sentence into a full-mark top-band evaluation.
But here is a crazy diagnostic cliffhanger for you. None of this framework matters. Not the method strategy, not the statistical tests, not even the context. None of it matters if you fall victim to the hidden command words that examiners use to dictate exactly what mark band you qualify for. Think about it. If you explain when you should have evaluated or you describe when you should have calculated, your absolutely perfect biology knowledge scores 0. If explaining when you should have evaluated gets you a 0, what other trapdoors are hiding in your exam paper? Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Ace the Exams, at acetheexams_IGCSE to excel in your Cambridge examinations. Join us in our next explainer as we decode these hidden command words. Until then, ask yourself, are you just memorizing biology or are you actually answering the question?